Welcome everyone to Ballet Bites. Today, we're diving headfirst into a hot topic. Should we update canonical ballets to remove harmful stereotypes, or, preserve them as written and contextualize instead?
I'm so ready to dig into this debate. These are questions that touch on, both artistic integrity and modern ethics, right?
Exactly. And it's all about whether updating keeps the classics culturally relevant or whether it washes out the choreographer's original intent.
Right. Because on one side, transforming outdated caricatures into, more authentic expressions can really connect with today's audiences.
Absolutely. Take the Nutcracker, for example. Many companies have quietly modernized the Chinese segment, ditching things like Fu Manchu mustaches in favor of authentic movement and costumes. That shift, according to Point magazine and the Final Bow for Yellowface Pledge, helped companies like New York City Ballet and the Royal Ballet modernize without scrambling the Tchaikovsky magic.
Yeah, and it's not isolated to the Nutcracker. The Royal Ballet tweaked their Arabian dance just a few years ago, and Boston Ballet even stepped back from a full staging of La Bayadère for its 2023-24 season because of its problematic history.
Right, and those moves are meant to remove caricature while still honoring the core of the work. But then, on the flip side, there's the argument that if you sand down every sharp historical edge, you might, risk losing the distinctive style and technique, like how Petipa's character dances encode a specific lineage of musicality and history.
I get that. It's like if you try to smooth out an intricate sculpture, you might lose the details that make it so compelling. But then, isn't there something to be said for evolving the art to speak to a modern audience?
Exactly. And that brings us to an interesting point. What would Balanchine do? Balanchine mostly modernized by creating new work rather than, trying to retrofit old narratives.
Right. He even reauthored pieces like The Nutcracker. Note the possessive in George Balanchine's The Nutcracker, making it clear it was his creative take, not a try attempt to just tweak the original classic.
Yeah, it's, like he signed his own work. And his model gives us two clean paths. Either create something new for the present, or, if you do revise a classic, put your name on it so the audience knows what kind of experience to expect.
Yeah.
It's a statement of authorship, not just an arbitrary change.
I appreciate that clarity. But what about defining limits? I mean, where do you draw the line on what changes are acceptable and what fundamentally alters the painting, so to speak?
There's, a sort of three-part test that can be used. First is reversibility. If, like with a tweak in costumes or casting decisions, the change is temporary and can be reversed, that's generally safer territory than rewriting the music or overhauling the structure.
That makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't want a one-off update that permanently alters the relationship with the original choreography, right?
Exactly. Then there's the issue of labeling. For instance, if you move a piece like Raymonda to a different context, say, a Crimean War setting, like what Tamara Rojo attempted, it needs to be clearly indicated as an adaptation. English National Ballet's Raymonda, Adaptation by X, exactly did that.
That's crucial. I mean, if you don't label it, audiences might be confused, expecting the historic version and getting something entirely new. It's like ordering a classic cocktail, but ending up with a modern mix.
Right. And the third test is targeted harm. Are you just addressing a specific stereotype, say, the yellow face in the Nutcracker's T sequence, without gutting the overall structure or musical fabric of the ballet?
Yeah, that's
correct.
Key.
Remedying the harm without dismantling the masterpiece.
So essentially, if the update is precise and measured, you can preserve the spine of the work while still making it more inclusive?
Exactly. It's about keeping the score, the structure, the style intact, while performing a kind of ethical surgery on the harmful parts, the outdated stereotypes.
But that leads me to wonder, who actually gets to decide these changes? Is it purely the artistic directors? Or should there be a broader consensus, like involving communities depicted in the works?
Great question. In reality, it's kind of a triangle. Artistic directors, rights holders, or estates, and the communities represented in these ballets. For Balanchine's works, the George Balanchine Trust really controls the narrative, licensing and enforcing standards, which helps preserve technique and musicality across generations.
True. But then you have companies like Boston Ballet that connect these decisions not just to art, but also to ethics. As their note on La Bayadere shows, by linking repertoire decisions to initiatives like Final Bow for Yellowface.
Right, transparency here is super healthy. If the audience understands why a piece is being updated, be it through notes or programs, then it builds trust. And that's critical in any art form.
I totally agree. And speaking of the audience, how do we measure the impact of these updates? Are they truly diversifying the crowd? Or are they, just rebranding the familiar?
Well, hard data is still a bit patchy, but we do have some trend lines. For example, New York City Ballet's audience skewed younger during their 75th anniversary when they combined affordable pricing and modern collaborations, even pushing capacity beyond pre-pandemic levels. That suggests updating can indeed make a difference.
And then we've got instances like ENB's Raymonda refit, which sparked vigorous debate yet boosted box office numbers. It's like controversy mixed with art acts as a magnet for the curious.
Absolutely. Debate equals engagement, and engagement means growth. Plus, when dancers of Asian descent feel more welcome because of these incremental updates in the Nutcracker, that's a significant cultural pipeline improvement.
Yeah, it's not just about ticket sales, but also about diversifying the talent pool and future generations of performers.
Right, and that brings us to a 5-point field guide many directors and audiences can actually look at. First, name the harm precisely. If the issue is a stereotype, fix that specific element without, overhauling the entire act.
I like that. It's all about pinpointing what's problematic rather than, wiping the slate clean.
Exactly. Second, preserve the spine, keep the score, the choreography structure, and signature style intact. If you can't, then you're not updating. You're reauthoring entirely.
Makes sense. I mean, you want to honor the original artistry as much as possible.
Third, loudly label the adaptation. Let your audience know if it's, an adaptation by move. That kind of transparency, like Balanchine's clear touch on his Nutcracker, sets clear expectations.
Right. Clarity helps avoid confusion. Nobody wants to be surprised by a misrepresented piece.
Fourth, consult widely and give credit where it's due. Think of the Scottish Ballet's 2022 Coppelia. It was reimagined as a tech-age thriller by, involving multidisciplinary teams that credited historians, dramaturgs, and communities alike.
It's a model for collaborative, inclusive art. A real win when everyone feels they've had a hand in it.
And finally, measure outcomes. Track audience demographics, ticket sales, and even audition trends. If the modernization is truly drawing in younger and more diverse crowds, then it's doing its job.
Right. This empirical approach means that the updates aren't just a reaction, but a strategy with measurable, positive impact.
I do want to challenge one point, though. While clear labeling and consultation are essential, sometimes the desire to modernize can, override historical authenticity. There have been instances where critics felt that the brutal artistic edges of a classic became too sanitized, even if the box office results were positive.
That's a fair critique. It's a delicate balance, modernizing without, washing away the raw historical energy that gives a ballet its soul.
Exactly, the challenge is to remain respectful to the art's lineage while addressing ethical concerns. It's not an either-or situation. It's about harmonizing the preservation of technique and tradition with a progressive sensibility.
And that's the beauty of this debate, isn't it? Balanchine's model shows us that new interpretations can coexist with timeless elements if you're, smart and transparent about it.
Yes, and a healthy repertory ecosystem benefits from both guardians who preserve tradition and innovators who push boundaries. The trust and transparency in methods, as well as clear communication with the audience, are essential to both sides.
Absolutely. In the end, the goal is to keep the art form vibrant and accessible while still honoring history. Incorporating both adaptation and historical presentation, with context, gives us the best of both worlds.
Exactly, and that's our bite for today. A balanced field guide for understanding when and how to update canonical ballets. Remember, name the harm, preserve the spine, label loudly, consult widely, and measure outcomes.
Thanks for this deep dive. Keep the conversation going by sharing your thoughts. What works, what doesn't, and where you think the balance lies. Till next time, keep dancing to the rhythm of progress and tradition.